Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is the world premiere. Great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. Absolutely, it's time for your favorite talk show, The Culture Call, with yours truly, Bishop Ellsworth Smith, right here on 790 WTSK, Praise 93.3 FM. Yes, the inspiration station. This is the place where, of course, Tuscaloosa meets the world. And for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to talk a little bit about everything. That's right, from society to sports, education to economics, from religion to relationships. And as always, we are here to create a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and yes, sometimes controversial conversation. And as always, you can call in or chat it up on the app and let me know what you're thinking as we learn together right here on The Culture Call. First, shout out. Y'all know what we do. All of my first-time listeners, thank you so much for being a part of the CC family this morning. Listen, we have been having a blast in conversation over the week, and I am grateful that however the Lord has ordered your steps to be a part of our family today, I am grateful. So whether you're traveling through the city or whether you're listening to us in another place or whether you're on vacation, hey, doesn't matter. I'm grateful to have you listening to The Culture Call. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Listen, shout out number 2 to all of my faithful listeners, committed listeners who make us and push us and encourage us throughout the day. Challenge us. That's right. Give me topic ideas. Tell me things that you want to talk about. Thank you so very much. I could not have definitely done this without you for almost a year now. Yeah, but not almost. Yeah, over a year now. Yeah, we're going into our second year now. And I could not have done that without you. We would not be the number one talk show in our market without you. And so I want to definitely say thank you kindly. Keep listening to The Culture Call. And last but not least, the inimitable, awesome, the anointed Brother Jay. That's right, the man with the plan. Absolutely. Our drum major here at 790 WTSK, Praise 93.3. That's right. For leading us in from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. with the glorious sounds of the gospel music. We give God praise for him. He's my mentor. He's a coach. I'm telling you, a man of wisdom, and we are grateful. He passes me this hot baton every day and lets me know, son, run on and see what the end going to be. I said, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to keep running with all of the wonderful inspiration that he has provided. Listen, do me a favor if you've not done it already. Go ahead and download our free 99 app on your Apple or your Android device. That's Praise 93.3. Yeah, you can type that in. Praise 93.3. You can type that in and download that app. That's right. Download that app. And guess what that's going to help you do? It's going to enable you to listen to all of our wonderful broadcasts, The Culture Call, but everything, not just The Culture Call, rather, but everything that we do here at WTSK and Praise 93.3, the amazing music, the inspiration, the wonderful words and snippets of encouragement that come, and of course the talk, all of that makes up the difference. So if you go ahead and download that app, you'll get that plus weather, plus events, plus news, breaking news as it happens in our city and all around our state and country. So go ahead and download that. Listen, also, you can email me your public service announcements and events to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. I want to let Lottie Dottie and everybody know what the wonderful things that you're doing in your church, your organization, your sorority, your fraternity. Yeah, if you're an artist getting ready to do a recording or a preacher getting ready to start a church or run a revival, guess what? I want you to go ahead and send that to me via email, and I will let everyone know and post it on our Facebook page. That's right. I want to segue into that because I need you to follow me on Facebook. That's right. Facebook, The Culture Call. You can go ahead and tap that right on in, and you're going to see my little face there. Yeah, and the Culture Call logo. I want you to do that for me. Would you do that? Thank you so very much, kind ma'am, kind sir. And let's push this. Let's expand this. Let's get this all around the country, all around the world, all around, definitely all around Tuscaloosa. Absolutely. Go ahead and write down this number, 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800. And guess what? You can call into the show. You can definitely chat it up with us on the app as well. The app has a chat feature. Many of you do that because I know a lot of you may be at work listening as well. Definitely want you to do that. And then finally, if you missed any of our previous broadcasts, I want you to go ahead to Apple Podcasts and type in Culture Call. Leave out the article, type in Culture Call, and you will hear there, where you will see there archived all of our past broadcasts that you may have missed. I'm telling you, there is some good stuff there that you need to listen to and be a part of. I'm telling you, my job, my purpose on the radio is to empower my community so that we will not be late, last, or lost. You know why? Because we do it better when we do it together. That's what we do. And so, hey, we want to make you a part of our community. Do me a favor, go ahead and get hydrated. You know how we do it. If you love it, go ahead and start with your coffee from Maxwell House to Starbucks. Maybe you're not a coffee fan. You're trying to lay off that caffeine. Well, you can get you some herbal tea, chamomile if you're trying to calm down. Yeah, and green tea. That's got a little bit of caffeine in it when you just need a little kick. Not as much as coffee does, but you can go ahead and get that as well. Maybe you're not a coffee drinker, neither a tea drinker, but get you some water then. That's right. Stay away from the soda. Stay away from the carbonated drinks, right? Even the diet kind. Yeah, I'm working on that now to myself. Y'all pray much my strength in the Lord, as the old saints used to say. Yeah, pray for me. Definitely do that. Get you some alkaline water or some spring water. That's right. Detox that body, flush out that system, get out all of those things that don't need to be there. Wake up those cells. Yeah, and let's get into the culture. Listen, all week long we've been under the thematic public policy and personal theology, and I think it has been an amazing week that we have had. And I'm telling you, so many people have been buzzing in. So many of you have been saying, hey, I want to know what's, I'm glad that you're putting this on because I didn't know. Sometimes it's very difficult to watch the news. News is not news. When I was growing up, Walter Cronkite, Tom Brokaw, all those people, they just reported the news. There wasn't so much commentary and subjectivity and personal thought and perspective in the news. They just reported it as it happens. Well, that's kind of difficult. And it doesn't matter if you're looking at Fox, MSNBC, CNN, everybody, the whole thing is they're trying to create, instead of news reporters, they have news personalities and commentators, right? And so it's all about ratings. And so you just kind of never know how you're being skewed. And so what I try to do is I try to do my research and try to do my best, not to divorce myself from my own perspective, because I think part of what makes you enjoy what I do is the fact that I give you my perspective and I tell you what I think about a certain thing. And I don't do it just subjectively. I do it objectively. In other words, I do my study, I do my research, I use my education, right? Because you know what? Not to aggrandize myself or to be arrogant or conceited, but I believe that, that there are some of us that God has appointed to be educated and to be intellectual and to do the research and cover most of the ground so that we can all get there. So what it took me 8 years to do, it can take you 30 minutes to understand something in that. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's how we empower each other. When God empowers us and imparts into us and we learn that we go back and teach each other, right? And begin to formulate different levels of conversation. And so this week we've been doing that with this whole idea of public policy versus personal theology, even as we land in this critical year of election for our country, I think we need to pay attention. The most pivotal vote is the black vote. I'm going to say it again, that the most pivotal vote is the black vote, right? That's why they either try to twist it or to make it go into one direction, or they try to stop it and suppress it, because quite frankly, we turn elections. That's the facts. That's just what it is. Black women, then followed by black men, and then Hispanics, and then our Caucasian brothers and sisters follow up. But yet, even though they're the majority of the electorate, a lot of them vote vote on the Republican conservative side, and I don't really like, Republican Democrat, because that's not how it's being really framed, even though from a political idea of labeling and nomenclature and all those kinds of things, I think we do Republican and Democrats. But as I have grown up and been living a while, I've seen those two parties change in such a way that, we're going to have to come up in a couple of years with different terminology, because I don't think Republican and Democrat, see, you got this thing called MAGA. Now you got liberal, progressive. You got all these different kinds of labels on the labels that we're going to have to rethink how we classify them. Nonetheless, I think it is very important for us in the black community to have a conversation about our role, our very important role with regards to creating public policy while not compromising or denying our personal theology. And I think that's very important conversation for us to have, Culture Call. And those of you who are listening to me, you need to tell somebody, hey, get on, this guy is talking. I really want to make sure that we understand that, I hear a lot of young people sometimes say, well, we don't want to be guilted into voting. Well, good, no problem. Nobody's guilting you into voting. But the reality is that our ability and our capacity and our opportunity to vote is bathed in the blood of our ancestors, and the blade is bathed in the vicious undertakings that our ancestors had to survive and thrive through just for us in this generation to vote or not vote, right? And not be hanging at the end of a tree, right? Or killed or whatever. But there have been generations, and that is our history. Now, you can't get upset when there are people that are trying to remove our history in the classrooms and education. You can't get mad at them removing, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and policies and all of that. And then, talking about this is a racist country, and then talking about, well, I'm not going to participate in the voting, because when you understand the truth of the matter is that one of the main objectives of white supremacy and racism has always been to silence the voice of the enslaved, to not empower us, to not humanize us, to not give us equal and equitable vantage points and voice to determine our civic future, right? And so I think that's very important for us to understand. So I have to educate college students. I was just a part of a consortium that developed for clergy a particular announcement in terms of how we view Project 2025. In Baltimore, I had to go and be a part of that conversation. They wanted to know how could we articulate to young people, the young generation that only thinks that this boils down to who's going to give me a free check, who's going to give me another $1,200. And then even the misunderstanding or the misinformation, not necessarily misunderstanding, but the misinformation that goes along with that, thinking about, well, this person gave me this, and so I'm going to vote for this person. Well, see, no. That's a bribe, right? Number one, that would be a bribe. However, the reality is no, that was passed by the Congress. The thing is, that person demanded that their name be on the check, be on the check, right? So that you would think, or so that our young people or those who got the $1,200 would think that it was him, but it wasn't. It was the Congress that passed it, and they wanted to pass more, but he said no. And then when it finally passed, because at that time we had a Democratic House and Senate, they passed it, and he demanded that his name, but now he has the appointment of the Secretary of Treasury, so he demanded that his name be put on it, right? And so, because so that he could use that, hey, I was the one that gave you $1,200. No, you were not, right? So, it may sound like, and I'm always very clear about my conversations because it may sound like I'm going to get feedback from this. I got a couple of, friends, mentees, and all they hit me up and said, man, you kind of rough on old boy. I'm not rough. I'm just telling the truth. And wow, listen, it's not rough when you tell the truth. And I'm speaking the truth in love. I don't hate nobody. I mean, I don't like what they do. I absolutely abhor what they do. But I believe that as long as there's life in the body, that anybody can change and transform, right? No problem. Cool. But the truth of the matter is, if you're going to obfuscate, if you're going to confuse people to make them think that you wrote them a check, right, when in fact you didn't, you just had the power of the presidency to say, well, I want my name on it. That's what you did, but you did not pass it. You didn't want it to pass, even during the pandemic. Hello? Come on. The same person, that was doing all that was important, right? To them, to make sure that they put their name on it, because to them, who they are is a brand. You don't understand that. You got to understand that. Our young people don't understand it. He is a brand. He's been a brand since the 80s, right? It's not what I own. It's what I can put my name on. You see what I'm saying? And you think I own it, but I really don't own it, but my name is on it. My brand is the thing that sells the product, right? So then there's that. So I think that's very important. But yes, I was a part of a consortium of pastors and bishops and leaders to draft a document, and that's going to be released real soon. And really, not just a document, but to create a think tank of how we can communicate to our community certain bullet points, and how can we hear from our young people and college students. The head of the consortium is a professor at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. And so we all came together and kind of put that all together. And, he encouraged me to do public forums. He's like, hey, man, you're on the radio. You got a following. You need to get down to, you're in the South. You need to do some public forums, and I'll come down and help you in XYZ. So I'm looking forward to really creating and really onboarding this public forum that we can talk about community issues with regards to, yes, theology and policy and how we should move. And, because one of the things that we were talking about in that kind of consortium that I was a part of, Culture Call, was how do we as pastors and leaders encourage other pastors and leaders to understand what public policy and public theology is, or to create a public theology that does not compromise their particular perspective of anthropology, of sin and all those kinds of things, of man and sin and all that kind of stuff, that we cannot be those that promulgate in the marketplace, anti-humanism, anti-man behavior, no matter how they show up. And I think that's very difficult in a lot of sectors, right? And it is fueled from Western ideology, Western teachings, Western hermeneutics, Western interpretation of the Bible. And when I say Western, I'm talking about European, Roman kind of situations, right? That they are not liberal, but it's all about control and domination. And so they utilize the church. I think we talked about that a couple of days ago, so I won't go down that. Go to my archives so you can hear it. But nonetheless, I think it is very important for us to have that conversation. And so to really teach and to train pastors that you can literally, because Jesus did it, you can literally go and defend humanity and it not compromise your righteous intake, your righteous perspective. And I think some people misuse the word compromise. Compromise is when I don't have a perspective, or I change my perspective, or I just let a thing go when it is in my sphere, right? And so one of the things that we talked about in that consortium, and there's another conversation I want to talk to you about as well, Culture Call, bring you in on some of the great things that's coming down the pipeline. But the reality is that we've divorced ourselves so much that we think that the prophets of old and that the ancestors of old were doing this in church. That the prophets were prophesying in church. No, they were in public areas. They were in palaces, because the king was always connected to a prophetic voice, right? Elijah, Isaiah, they were confronting principalities, right? It wasn't just this, this whole idea of the preacher or the prophet or the seer or what they call the Nabi was not just the one that was in church prophesying righteousness, hellfire, and brimstone, cry loud and spare not. Most of that was against not the unrighteousness of the society. It was the unrighteousness and the disloyalty of God's people. When you start reading Hosea and Amos and some of what they call the minor prophets, not because they didn't have major impact, but just because of the size of their book, of the letter that they wrote. But they were prophesying and they're preaching in front of people in palaces and places where decisions were being made, the places that had political power, right? That the Bible also is not just a book that brings us and sequesters us to the four walls of the church, right? And you really understand that the four walls of the church, of which we call the church, didn't really start until, the Roman Empire, Constantine, another derivative, that the way that our churches are set up was not that in Genesis. It's not that in the Bible. That was set up via Constantine. When he partnered with the early Christian church of that day, he changed the way that our sanctuaries currently look. That he changed that. That was not something that's biblical. The pulpit that was only used, I think it's in the book of Nehemiah or maybe Ezra, when they would read the law, was not something that how ours look today. It just wasn't, and that is just the reality. But nonetheless, they feel like I'm compromising the kingdom of God. I'm compromising the church. I'm compromising righteousness. I'm compromising holiness. When in fact, if you were born in Bible days and you were a prophet at that time and or a preacher at that time, Paul did not just speak in synagogues. As a matter of fact, they didn't even want him in the synagogue, right? That, when we say the church of this and the church of that, he was talking about a group of people called out, not necessarily a building, right? He was talking about the ecclesia, those who have been called out of not just sin, but called out of religion, who come together and amalgamate. So that's all of those different kinds of things. And so I think we need to get an understanding of really what that looks like for our era, that there are preachers that are afraid to open up their voice. And I was talking to my children on the other day, and we were having a conversation. I said to them, the reality is that God can change everybody who is alive. All souls belong to God. That's what I said. All souls. So whether it's a homosexual soul, whether it's a transgender soul, whether it's an adulterous soul, whether it's a thief soul, a murderous soul, all souls belong to God, right? And that God has a relationship with the soul, right? And it says the soul that does sin shall surely die, right? That's not the prerogative of something that we say on people. Right? That's God's relationship with the soul. And we really, really, honestly, in context, don't even know what that looks like because it comes from an eternal view. And we are so limited in our human bodies and understandings that, some relationships or some rhetoric or some things that we say, we really, really should stop saying them because we really just don't know. Right? My job, your job, as believers, people of faith, however you see it, my job is to share the glorious gospel, the good news, right? And also warning all men. Warning all men about what? Don't miss this opportunity to have your life change. But that's what we do just in our normal life. That's not a church venture. However, even if they do not choose our way of faith, they are still God's. They're still created. Right? God didn't just create Christian people. Come on. He created all humanity. He loved the what? World. John 3:16. Right? And so we've got to find a way to fashion our message. And I believe that message begins in church. I believe it begins in pulpit because a lot of our social and our community constructs come from the voices and the vocality and of the church and the pastors and the preachers. And so I'm very vocal about it. Right? That, I want everybody to come to my church. You let those kind of people in your church? Yes, absolutely. Paul said such was some of you. So that when we start talking about public policy, I don't care what you do. Your bedroom is not my prerogative. What you do in your house is not my prerogative. But I'm never going to champion for a public policy to have qualified immunity for police that they can come in your house and shoot you and they don't get adjudicated. I'm never, because I don't like what you're doing in your house. I'm never, as a preacher and a pastor, going to preach that you deserve to die because you are an adulterer. I'm never going to do that. No. My job is to create a public policy that protects you. And then in my spirituality and in my call, yes, my call is to make sure that that what you have and what you do is an opportunity to meet Jesus. Then I can take up my Bible and say, okay, let's talk about this, right? And I'm not beating you over the head with it. I'm starting a conversation. Hey, man, how you doing? How's your life? What's going on with your family, man? You look a little despondent. Let them open up the door and tell me. And when they open up the door, just like Jesus, how long has he been this way? Jesus tries to start a conversation, right? With the woman at the well. Tries to start a conversation with all of those who he touched, all of those who he changed, all of those that were delivered, or that were going to be delivered. He started a conversation, right? And we as believers cannot be afraid to start the gospel conversation. And the gospel conversation does not start with the Romans chapter number 10. The gospel conversation starts with a hello, how are you doing? How's your family? Man, listen, it's a beautiful day today. That's where the gospel begins, right? It's becoming all things to all men that you may win some, because you're not going to win all, right? That's the reality. That is the reality. And so in this consortium, we're really helping people understand that there is no compromise. There is no compromise when I look at a law and I see a policy that is inflicting pain, that robs health care from people, that takes free lunch and free breakfast out of schools, that impute these things in the name of God. Yeah, that puts it in the market square that's going to limit people's lives. I'm never going to say, hey, she can't get out of that divorce. Number one, the Bible don't say that. So if the scripture don't say that, who is saying it? Come on, Culture Call. If the scriptures does not apply that restriction, and when I say the scriptures, hear me now. When I say the scriptures are the Bible, I'm talking about a post-resurrection, right? Where we get an understanding of the full parameter that Jesus made the difference. And so now we have to look at things from a different perspective. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 says, since we don't look at Christ in the flesh, neither do we look at each other in the flesh, right? That's not my prerogative. So I'm always going to see how love is making a decision to make your life better. It is not making a decision to control you or to restrict you, right? That's not what love is. Love is the ultimate decision to do what is right for that person, right? And sometimes it is what is going to extend their life, right? I remember I saw a lot of my constituents and friends, during the 80s and the 90s, they chose lifestyles and they ended up with AIDS and HIV. But I didn't say, nothing inside of me was, they need to go to hell. No, I didn't do that. I did not. I said, hey, let me pray for you. And I saw the tears in their eyes, and it was like, that they were in a place of contrition, a place of confusion, a place of ostracization. Why? Because their families had thrown them away. That is not how we use personal theology. It is not a weapon. Me coming to know the Lord is not a weapon. It is for me to look at this human family and say, God, direct me and show me how I can best help everybody and extend their life and do what's best for them until I am able, or until they meet the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what we do. That's what we do. That's what it's all about. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, about a conversation that I had, a very powerful conversation when we get back from the break. A very powerful conversation that I had with a prominent leader. I'm going to talk about it when we come back. This is the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on 790 WTSK Praise 93.3. Keep it right here.
This is the World premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, and we are having an amazing day, a wonderful day. Our topic today is, yes, we're continuing division number 3 of personal theology and public policy, but we're really talking about community strategy and learning how to build and reconstruct an empowered community that knows how to embrace their voice and knows how to affect change. You know, we're looking all over the country, and I want to say this even to people of faith. We're looking all over the country, and they're doing a tremendous, effort to suppress the vote of black and brown people, right? They're pulling out. If you have not done so already, even in the state of Alabama, you need to go ahead and check out your voter registration to make sure, because you don't assume that you are, especially if you've not ever voted before. Your children are turning 18. Go ahead and going to college or wherever, make sure that they're registered to vote, because I'm telling you, they're going to be trying to pull some hanky-panky. And if your vote was not important, they would not try to suppress it. And that's the bottom line, right? And they are not going to change it, because long lines and all that, they have in their mind presumed or assumed that, black folks, they're not going to stand in long lines. We ain't going to wait all day. But what is on the table on this election is too important for us to have our own thing around our particularities. I don't want to be in the heat. I don't want to be in this. And fortunately, it's in November, and all those kinds of things. It should be a federal holiday. I mean, President's Day is a federal holiday. Confederate Day is a holiday, and they won't make election day. Election when we literally decide. Let me show you how insidious this is. When we literally decide who's going to be the leader of our country, it's not a federal holiday. I mean, for real, we get Juneteenth off, y'all, but not election day, because they know that the more people that participate in that in the election process, that it won't go their way, right? And then you can put who there is however you want to put there, right? And so it's very important for us to be a part of that engagement and to let our young people know, hey, they want you to have that kind of thought of you shouldn't vote or it doesn't matter, because they're not thinking that. Now, let me say this. White youth are not thinking that. Black youth and young adults are. Did y'all hear what I just said? White youth are not thinking that as a part of their community. That's not even, no. That's something that comes in our community. We need to eradicate that, right? With voter registration drives, telling them the importance of the vote, taking questions. That's right. Bringing in people. If you don't have the answers, bringing in people who can definitely answer the questions. So, yeah, we need to, this is too much of a pivotal year for us to sit on the couch. This is too much. I promise you, if you read Project 2025, you'll have a different idea, right? But listen, yesterday I was fortunate enough to be contacted by a prominent lawyer in the country. His people, Attorney Benjamin Crump, his organization contacted me to help them with some gospel music things and all kinds of things that they're planning, to educate our community. And one of my friends were on there, and he said, hey, but Al Spencer is not just, a gospel artist, but he's a pastor, he's a bishop, all that. He said, yeah, I know him. I know blah, blah, blah. I know his mom. I knew his mom. I know his brother, all that kind of stuff. And then the conversation vectored to things that we needed to, in our community, topics and areas where we needed to craft in our community, and what would be the subject matter of that? What did we need to say? What did we feel as a pastor? Did I feel, need to be some of the things that we take up the change and say, hey, this community, our community needs this X, Y, Z. It was a very healthy conversation. And so I told him, I said, as a pastor and my perspective, I said, the first thing that we really, really need to talk about that affects our parishioners is the economy, right? And we need economic empowerment and really an understanding of this whole idea of entrepreneur being versus being an employee, right? We need that. We need how we can move from the idea of simply being consumers into investor mentality, right? Because we know economically that in every other community, apart from us, their dollar power is stronger because their dollars circulate within that community. Days before it even leaves that community. Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, Jewish community, all those kinds of things. It stays in that community. Our dollars stay in our community the max of 30 minutes to an hour. Then we're spending our money in places that we don't own, places that we don't, cultivate, places that are not even a part of our community, et cetera, right? And so I told them that, as the bottom line feature, as I pastor people, if they can't make their ends meet, if they can't take care of their families, if that father, that husband, and that wife cannot come together and make enough to take care of their children and have a house and buy a car for transportation, if they can't make, sound economic decisions and, be able to save and to invest, then what good is it, right? That you got someone out, not because of the leading of the Lord or not because of some great aspiration, but they don't want to be an employee anymore. So they go out and start their business and they use their retirement and they're trying to start a business to pay bills and start a business to take care of themselves. We need training in our community to really get them to understand that, this whole idea of how you build strong economies in the black community. And the representative was like, yo, that is absolutely right. We're dealing with something right now. The current administration is trying to deal with that. It's a long game. It is because, see, people think that the president can say X, Y, Z. He can only do that by executive order, but it doesn't last. It's not lasting policy because another president or another administration can come and upend that kind of executive order, right? And so the best thing to do is to let it go through the process of Congress. By the way, Project 2025 wants to take away that. They want to make the president a despot, a king. That's not what you want. No, they want to bypass congressional systems. Why? Because especially if they're not in charge. If they're not in charge, I want to move all that. We want to change this and we want to give it straight to the president. But no, we need to make sure that, one of the things he was saying to me yesterday was that, yeah, bills are at Congress, bills of this, all the things that will help our community, but it's stuck because, we don't know that the people who are there, it's not just, as a matter of fact, we don't have anyone in the Senate since Doug Jones left. We've got Tommy Tuberville. Jesus. But I'm going to keep moving, right? And yes, we do have those who are House of Representatives, but right now the GOP controls the House of Representatives. Fortunately, the Democrats, still control the Senate. That's who you get for your judges. That's who, all these different kinds of things. And so there are bills already there, but they're stalled or they're ignored. They don't make it out of committee to help our community. When people say, well, they ain't doing nothing for the black people. They ain't doing enough for reparations. They ain't doing enough for all that. Those bills that's not something that the president can do other than use his and preferably her bully pulpit, bully pulpit to encourage, but it has to go through the process. And those processes can be stymied and oftentimes stymied for our community by people who are in opposition to our community, because it's always how much it costs, dollars and cents, who it offends, who it doesn't offend when it comes to policy for our community, right? So when you look at certain frameworks of things, I really said, hey, we need to put people, even in down ballot, who we elect for our congressmen and our senators, even from every state in the Alabama and Georgia, with John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock in Georgia, Mississippi, all of those places, all in the South. We have the power. as black and brown people to really vote so that our economic concerns, they've convinced poor whites to vote against their economic interest. They've done it for years, right? But we don't have that kind of we don't have that kind of permission. We don't have that kind of space and time, and we can't chance it. So we've got to make sure that, if we're going to be talking about economic change and strengthening and businesses in our community, making sure housing prices are good, rent prices are good, all of those things that are affordable. If we want to really deal with that, then we're going to have to make sure that it's not just the president, that we got to make sure that we understand what's going on in the down ballot, because those affect us as well, right? You have to understand that. So I told them the economy, we have to start creating systems, like economic strategies, and like I said, housing, reparations can be in special interest rates for African Americans. I doubt that passed, but if you're looking at, instead of you just getting one big check for your great grandmama who used to pick cotton in Marengo County, instead of you just getting that, no, affect change for your future. And even if they gave you a check, if you have no economic strategy, you don't know how to invest, you don't know how to steward money well, you don't know how your purchasing power and your purchasing opportunity, your purchasing choice, right? If you don't know how that works, you'll lose that reparation just as quick as they put it in your hand. Ask folks that won lotteries, millions of dollars, but they didn't have any kind of economic training, understanding of how things work. Guess what? They were back broke, right? They quit their job and were back broke, right? How do you handle a financial advisor? All of these things need to be a part of an economic package that comes to empower our community. That's one of the things that I told them. And I said the second thing we need to talk about is education, right? Because what we will not do is go backwards. What we will not do is act as if our history and this whole idea of disenfranchising of our history in school, because Black history is American history. We need to change the metric that teachers, quality teachers, begin to teach, Black and white, begin to teach in our schools that are not teaching and training for a standardized test. We don't need them to teach for a test. We need them to teach to educate and to empower and to cause our children to be proper citizens. We need social studies and civics back in school so that our children will understand the political process, because they took it out. We need to get our kids in curriculums that require them to mature, to learn how to write in cursive, to learn how to write signatures to sign checks, right? Or to ratify deeds. Slowly but surely, they're going to electronic signatures and all of that, right? But still, I like it when I can sign my name, sign your name on the dotted line. I like that, right? I love it. It makes me feel grown, makes me feel like an adult, right? And I told them we need to stop all this promulgation of religion in the educational system. And he said, wait a minute, Pastor, you talking like that? I said, yes. I said, because theology is personal. Theology is personal. Theology is, you might not believe like I believe. You may not see God like I see God. Your interpretation of scripture may not be in the same interpretation. So when you try to mandate Bible study and all of that, mandate prayer in school, mandate this and mandate, who's the teacher? No, I don't want that. No, let that be the resolve of the church. Let that be the resolve of the house of God. Y'all teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. We'll take care of the religion. Right? And he said, you're absolutely right. He said, that's what we're pushing for. But there's a whole thing that wants to take us to remove education out and remove African American history. There's something going on right about Georgia right now that the school superintendent says they can't find any money for advanced courses in advanced African American courses, history and all that kind of stuff. And so He passed it. And then I don't know what's happening in Georgia. We can say to God be the glory. Hopefully one of my friends from Georgia there hit me up, hit me on the chat and let me know that the governor said, what made you, and it was a Republican governor. He said, what was the criteria by which you took the money, the state money away and said that we can't afford that? And why are you not moving anybody else's history out of the educational process? Why? Right? See that all that is important. All of that is important. And so I think we need to make sure that you talk about the education, right? We need money, prime money in communities for our public schools. I know folks are talking about private schools and charter schools and school choice. Yeah, but read the fine print. Read the fine print. Read the fine print. Just because I don't live in a wealthy upper middle class neighborhood, shouldn't mean that my child does not receive a prime education. That's not what that means. That their programs and cutbacks and all that in the public schools, but you want to give all these money to rich and private schools and religious schools or Christian-based schools? Absolutely not. Every child, regardless of whether they call the name of Jesus, whether their family understands Christianity and all of that, every child deserves to have a good education. Every child. Yes, red and yellow, black and white. Every child deserves that. And so definitely we need to do that. We also need to talk about policing. Y'all. Have y'all seen this thing with the police killing this young lady named Sonia Massey? Have y'all seen that? She said, listen, they came into the house and she said, don't y'all hurt me. The distrust was there. And they were doing something and she said, Satan, the Lord God rebuke you. That she used the church language. And the police officer shot her in the face. The camera was on. He didn't know it was on. Shot her in the face, killed her, would not help her, did not get any kind of first aid care to her. And this is the kind of individual, when you look at his track record, he was already dishonorably discharged from the military for violence and things. But he got on a police system. He got in a police. Let me calm down because I just got mad. He got in a police system, a police department, and killed this woman, and then lied about it. Talking about that she was trying to pour water on him. No, and then his partner had the camera, and they released the tape. Right? And so it was amazing. No, we need to talk about all of this. The Philando Castiles. We need to talk about the George Floyd. We need to talk about qualified immunity for police, because what they can't do and should not be able to do is come into our community, kill us, and receive no kind of judicial legal review. Oh, well, that's just another black brother or black sister dead. Absolutely not. No. Listen, we on fire today in the Culture Call. I got some stuff I want to talk about, but I want to tell you more about that conversation, but I need you to keep it right here. We've got more to come on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. Stay with me.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call. Guess what? It's 11 a.m. and some change. Welcome to all of you who are listening to us for the second hour. That's right. So very glad and grateful. Where does the time go? Man, we have a great time today talking about public policy and personal theology. We're really talking about community strategy and getting ourselves prepared to make our voices heard during this election season. I think it's very important to be able to do that. But listen, also would always want to remind you to go ahead and send your public service announcements and events to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. Yes. Coming up is the Epsilon chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. Impact Nation and Councilman Cassius Lanier sponsor the Back to School Supply Drive. That's right. The collection period is July 27th to the 24th. That's right. We want to make sure at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Bowers Park at Sycamore Shelter, 2101 Bowers Park Drive, Tuscaloosa, Alabama 35405. That's right. We want to make sure that we have all that we need: pencils, pens, papers, folders, binders, backpacks, highlighters, crayons. That's right, etc. Markers, glue, tapes, calculators. They got a list here, y'all. But yeah, we want to make sure my church, Kappa Alpha Psi, Epsilon, this chapter there at Stillman College, and the awesome councilman, Cassius Lanier, we're coming together to do a back to school supply drive. We want you to be a part of it. Yes, so don't miss it. July 27th. Y'all got the date? July 27th. That's on this Saturday. This Saturday, come out to Barrows Park and be a part of our supply drive back to school so that, we can help out family, community, and friends that may not be as fortunate, that may not have the supplies that are needed to be, tip top in this process of education. The school is getting ready to come back up in the next couple of weeks here in Tuscaloosa and all around the country. So yeah, let's do what we got to do. Come together as a community and let's get some supplies to our kids. Is that okay? Absolutely. We definitely want you to do that. But send in your public service announcements and make sure that we have that, right? Because we can't announce it if we don't have it. We can't announce it if we don't have it, right? So we want to make sure we alert you to that. Again, let's go back to the conversation that I was having with representatives from Attorney Benjamin Crump, who is a civil rights attorney, based all over the country, helping us champion against this whole idea of illegal police enforcement. I think that's, I've told them yesterday, I said, there's got to be a way. And here's the deal. One of the things that Project 2025 and the former president said that he wanted to do if he got reelected, are y'all hearing me, is that he wants to give police qualified immunity, total immunity, same way they gave him in the Supreme Court. Total immunity to go in, shoot, kill anybody, arrest anybody, and you can't sue them. Your families can't, take them to court or anything. They're totally immune. First of all, that is utterly ridiculous on its face. Yo, that doesn't make any sense, Culture Call. And I know we got crime in the streets, and I know we got all this, and I know that all that. A friend of mine said to me yesterday, well, what about, in the 90s when Clinton and Biden and all of them were for policing and all that kind of stuff. Right. There was a drug epidemic. The black community, they couldn't sit on the front porch without them having a gang violence and warfare, killing kids and killing, shooting kids at school and all that. No place was safe. And so, yes, black community leaders did side with them and say, yeah, we need to get something that's going on with this drug situation. Right. And so it was rough. Trust me, I lived during that time. That's when I was a teenager in that time. It was crazy. You had to be in the house a certain amount of time by a certain hour, certain people. I mean, it was just a whole lot going on in the 80s and the 90s. Right. And so I don't fault any pastor or any leader or any, black, brown, or otherwise, for partnering with law enforcement and getting things that were passed to get that element off of the street. Regardless of why you said it, man, we ain't got no food, we ain't got no money. Okay, whatever. A lot of us didn't have food or money at that time, but we didn't go shooting up our community and selling drugs. That's not what we did. Casting those aspersions upon those who thought that was the way, but it wasn't. It was not, And so, yeah, that was then. But what they're saying now is that you could call them to come, check on something, and you could end up dead and with no cause of your own, and you can't send them to jail. That's what that Project 2025 and former President Trump is trying to do. Period. Now y'all, Culture Call. Now I know some of y'all trying not to cuss. I get it. Listen. I get it. But that's what I told him, no, we need to definitely. He said, well, I'm on my way. Attorney Crump is on his way now even to talk to the Massey family because of that. But that's happening too much in our community without any cause. Now, is that to say that the police are unnecessary? No. But is that to say that there must be innovative ways in how they do enforce protection and safety? Yes. That the militarization needs to be taken out of policing. And I get it. The reason why they're militarizing the police departments is because they're militarizing the streets. The gun lobby is allowing anybody to come and take military grade weapons and buy them and possess them. And, and the NRA, and again, they're passing that. I'm like, how can you even afford that gun? How does that even happen? And so we begin to talk about that's very important in our community. Very, very important in our community. And then I said we also have to talk about health care because overturning the Affordable Care Act is a non-starter. That is a non-starter. Nope. No, because so many people, I don't care what you call it, Obamacare. I don't care what you call it. There are many people that are covered now that have never had health insurance before. Period. And so that's the reality. That is the reality. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality. That's the non-starter. There are people in my church. I told them there are people in my church that need that ACA. They can't afford the, big Blue Cross Blue Shield policies. They're having to work jobs that don't even offer health care just to make ends meet. Right? So to take that off the table or to repeal that is a non-starter in our community. So no, we definitely got to talk about that. We definitely have to talk about that, And so, there were many more subjects that we had to talk about, but he's trying to create, and that team is trying to create talking points, for policy that we can go around to certain communities, black communities in particular, and have that conversation to let our community know what is on the table, and if we don't do that, this is not the time to be disengaged. This is not the time. I do believe in black entrepreneurship. I just don't believe that every black person needs to be one. I think everybody needs a side hustle, but I don't think you need to quit your 9 to 5 for a side hustle when you don't have any business acumen, no accounting acumen. You don't know, you don't have the discipline, nor the stewardship, nor the strategy to start your own business. No. I don't mind you baking cakes on the side, frying chicken on the side and get your little change. I ain't mad at that. Go fry your chicken and bake your cakes, sis. But what I am saying is that I'm not a proponent of you quitting your 9 to 5 because I can't stand my job. I hate my boss, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get all that. I understand all of that. However, we got to have a better strategy than just you being sick and tired. Right. So that's important. One of my friends from Atlanta, they just sent me a whole thing about the United States Black Chambers, right? The Black Chambers, the national voice of black business. They got a 2023-2024 black print, not blueprint, black print. And I'm waiting. Can I put this? Listen, I'm going to need to hit him up to find out, can I put this on the Culture Call page? Can I put it on the page for those of you who want to review it? Because I think it's very important, especially those of you who want to start businesses, who want to apply for loans at the Small Business Administration, who want to do all these things, who are starting businesses, all of these things. You need to empower yourself with proper information, not off of Instagram, not off of TikTok, YouTube. No, proper information is the key of the day, is the thing of the day. We definitely have to do that. And so, then he asked me a hard question, y'all. Culture Call. He asked me, and not so much hard for me, but hard for our community. He says, well, how do we deal with the social concerns of the LGBTQ plus, A plus, IA plus, and all of that kind of communities? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the societal or the social ramifications, the social issues that are coming up in same-sex marriages and all those different kinds of things? How do you deal with abortion? Should that be a part of our policy conversation? And I said, well, and I told him straight up, I said, you have to have people who have an understanding of a Bible knowledge, biblical knowledge, yeah. And you have to have the people understand how to be able to speak in the public square. Because if you normally only speak in church, and I told him, now you can do that, but you got to make sure that you have people who understand public theology as well, not just church theology, right? Sunday morning theology, but you need people who understand how do we defend and fight for the freedom of all men, even when all men don't live like how we view from a moral context. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah, right. So you got to have people who are very skilled in that area. Else you get up there getting you get a fire and brimstone kind of preacher sending everybody to hell for everything, of course, except the sin that he or she does, right? Nonetheless, you get somebody up there that will mess up your whole, the whole idea, right? The reality is people are going to be people. People are going to live how people are going to live. And that is simply the reality. And there is nothing that we can do about that. And I don't think that the church should shy away from that. Remember, I'm on this phone call yesterday as a pastor, as a preacher, as a bishop. And it started off as a gospel artist, but it morphed into something more. And it was like, but that's not going to be a problem for the church. I said, well, see, here's the deal. I can't speak for it being a problem for the church because I think it will be. I was honest with them. I said, I think it will be a problem for the church because there are issues within the church that we've not discussed. There are theologies. There are, things that are going on right now, and so in the social context. And so for you to, want to gather all of these pastors and think there's going to be solidarity and unity around a particular idea of social concerns, then I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be a waste of time. You're going to be frustrated. And, so the whole idea is craft policy, or let's create policies that talk about the full protection for humanity. Let us deal with those intricate questions about what is sin from a hamartia. What is this? Let us address that, but in terms of its specificity within the church. But when you're talking about all of humanity, when you're talking about people in a community, then devise policy that speaks for the protection, equal protection for everybody in the community. Black, white, gay, straight, all of that, right? Because until we mature, until we get to the place of light, of understanding that what Paul says, I love how Paul says it. Paul says, such were some of you, but God. Sometimes we get amnesia, convenient amnesia, to forget the kinds of people that we were, and even some days struggle not to be. But if it had not been, see, that's dangerous for a Pentecostal boy to say that, Pentecostal. If it had not been for the mercies of God, such as some of you, but God, who is rich in mercy. But see, that's not a part of the public square conversation. That public square is not ready to take that conversation on, especially because religion has been politicized. And so I was like, you can do that one at your own risk. But let's work on crafting some language that will not become inflammatory. Neither will it cause preachers and pastors and churches who are more conservative socially to divest from the forward moving programming that you're talking about, right? That I feel like, now this is just personal, I feel like every pastor, every church should agree that every person, no matter how they show up, should have the equal right to be protected and live the life that they so choose to live. I think I don't think that, if that was the case, we would have been gone a long time ago. So we already know that God agrees, because we wouldn't kill a long time ago. when we were living, from my perspective and my background, the saints said when I was living deep in sin, a miserable life of sin. That's what they said in the Pentecost. God saved me from a miserable life of sin. Until my granddaddy got up one day and said, well, it wasn't so miserable, because if it was miserable, why'd you stay so long? Why'd you stay so long if it was so miserable? Right? So that's the reality. Right? That people are our business. And we must introduce people and create a relationship with them. Here's the church that create a relationship that introduces people to principles. Right? We cannot throw principles down people's throat without building a relationship with them. No, we build as believers, as people of faith, as the community of faith, if I can say it like that. We build relationships with people, and over an opportunity, and wait for an opportunity to introduce people to principles, right? So that their lives will go in a different trajectory. But the ultimate choice is up to them. Not any of our rhetoric, not any of the things that we try to force down people's throat. No, people have to choose, right? And so that's very important. If they are robbed from choice, it's not salvation, according to the text. If it's not choice, if it's not their choice and choosing him, then okay. If they don't make up their mind and says, I'm going to be a faithful follower of Christ or the faith, if they don't say that, then nothing that we can stand on the corner in 1,000-degree heat with tracts and the kingdom of God, hell is on its way. Okay, yeah, you can say that, but you're never going to make a difference to the person whose life is already in hell. If they already feel like things are going on in their life and the hell that they're already living has led them to make certain decisions, you threaten them with hell ain't going to move them at all. I promise you. I am not a novice. I've been doing this a while. I'm telling you, it does not work. They're going to look at you like, yeah, okay, all right. Well, I'm already in hell. So what? Right. Now what's your next move? You see? So, on this call yesterday, I was just telling them, think about it. You don't want churches to divest who may be, again, socially conservative. From a biblical perspective, they believe X, Y, Z, A, B, C, right? But if you push and if you begin to craft policy and craft announcement that causes us to understand that my job, my responsibility as the church, as the Christian community, as the sacred community, right, is to defend, to champion the full and equal protection of all men, no matter how they show up. Men are going to show up with sin. Men are going to show up with fallings and flailings and failings. That's what we are. That's what we do. All have sinned and fall short, right? But our job, when we begin to speak for all of humanity, the Bible says that Jesus laid down his life for the whole world, right? He did it for everybody. Paul says once and for all, right? And he said to the disciples, as my Father has sent me, that's how I'm sending you. I'm sending you in the same way, in the same aspect, in the same attitude, in the same perspective of people, the same love, the same agenda of love. Right? I know holiness is right and somebody's wrong. I know righteousness is right. Thank God for it. I know all of these things, sanctification. I know all of that. From a biblical perspective, from a theological perspective, I understand all of those things. But how do you tell that to a drug addict? A drug addict shouldn't be able to live. Somebody's hooked on meth. Somebody's, hooked on XYZ, doing certain things. Shouldn't know. You didn't throw the adulterer out of your church. Huh? You didn't throw the murderer out of your church. So then we might need to find a little compassion and a little understanding for those who are yet trying to grapple with this whole idea of how to live life. I need you to live so I can minister to you. I need you to live so I can love you. Right? And so once we had the end of that conversation, because again, I think that they had another phone call But we're going to talk again about what we need to talk about from terms of our community crafting policy. And again, from my perspective as a pastor and a leader, those are the things those are the things that we really need to understand. The economy, because guess what? We need jobs, and our folks need a good jobs. We need a living wage. We need to be able. Nobody wants to graduate with 4, 6, 8 years of college and can't find a job. No, no. We need to talk about the economy and how it has affected our community. We need some policy that gives us, as black folks, an advantage now. Not an advantage over people. That's domination and control. But an advantage that gives us a little fuel in the lane that we have had to live in this country a while. Huh? That's what we need to do. And that's how we need to construct policy. And so we had a very, very good conversation about that, the coming election and all of that, and them asking me again to create in different areas certain public forums that they could come in and meet people. Connections are going to be very important, Culture Call. Connections are very, very important, right? You know, and they're like, well, you ought to get Attorney Crump to come on your show. And I said, I would be glad to, but I want to wait till we get, maybe into fall months when people are really, I would love to have him in person and not just on the radio, or maybe we'll do a night with him and then, what y'all think? We'll do a night with Attorney Crump but have him on the radio in that day just to let you know, and come out and meet him and let him talk to you about all the things that are going on in the country, around the world, with regards to, what he's championing and what political policing and all that kind of stuff. I think that's very, very important. We need to know. I know Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I love Acts, Epistle to the Romans, but I also need to know what are the policies that are being created that's going to deeply affect my community. Don't you think that's important? I do believe so. And so, if we don't have proper connections and there is a manipulation, lying mill that's going on, and we're trying to protect our people from lies and deception, right? Because it's too late to say, oh, I didn't know. No, I want you to know on the front end. I want you to know what's really going on the front side so that you and your families can make the very best decisions. Yes, the very best decisions that you can make to be able to thrive, to be able to have the finances that you need. Yes, absolutely. School costs are going up. All of that. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about, all these, the situations with regards to, not just how much the educational costs, but the quality of education. We need to have that conversation. And we will do that right here on the Culture Call with your boy, L. Spencer Smith. Hey, I got to take a break. We got to breathe for just a minute, get hydrated, and I need y'all to keep it right here. Don't you dare miss it.
World premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Listen, we've been having a great day, wonderful conversation. I wanted to bring you in just on that conversation with Attorney Crump's team and myself as we formulate an agenda for our community. I think it's very important for us to do that. And talking to the right people. We got to talk to the right people. We got to connect with the right people, And many people say, well, you don't talk to a lot of folks in Tuscaloosa. I mean, I really do. I really do. But fortunately, God has given me the opportunity to connect with people on a national scale. It's always been that way. And for whatever reason, that's important. So it's just, hey, he brings me into different rooms and I'm like, yo, God, I'm really grateful because, I'm not going to mishandle it. As we end this whole topic, we've been doing 3 days of public policy and personal theology as we as I want to wrap this up, because I really want you to not feel conflicted as a believer listening to me on the Culture Call. And I don't want to feel that. And I don't want to feel that way. And I don't want you definitely to feel that way. That standard biblically is so very important. That the crux of who we are as a people have always been founded in a certain level of righteous resolve and even sometimes righteous indignation. From the moment that we, began our sojourn in this country, there's always been a foundational level of spirituality, and a community that comes together and convenes to begin to develop, decipher, and sometimes somewhat discover how we will survive and how we will thrive in a country that has not always and sometimes even still struggles how to appreciate its diversity, how to appreciate equity, and how to include us. And, they're using, DEI as a pejorative now, as a negative term. Oh, that's a DEI hire, as if that we are not qualified, or as if somebody gave us something. And of course, no one ever, the statistics and just reality, if we can just say it like that, has never showed us that whole idea of we could just enter into and they're just going to appoint us. No, we always had to. When I grew up, my grandparents, my parents were like, hey, you got to make A's because your A's is still, your A pluses are equal to their B's, right? That this system is designed to reward the average and the mediocre white man, basically, not white person, white man, and make them supreme over the greatest efforts the greatest efforts and achievements of black and brown people. And that is the reality. And, and yet we've made it. That's what I want to say, Culture Call, and yet we've made it, as the hymn writer says, through many dangers, toils, and snares. We have already come through all of that stuff. We've already come. And it's been, yes, by God's grace. However, it's also been by the idea and the understanding that we had no choice. We had no boats to go back. We had already been somewhat quasi-acculturated to this land. And so we had to learn how to survive and thrive here. We developed a tremendous religious and spiritual center within our community, within ourselves, right? Even from the hush harbors back on the plantations and, the praise houses and the prayer houses that developed, and then, being a part of their denominations, Baptist and Methodist, and then creating our own offspins of those things, because even in the religious sector, even in the Methodist, even in the Baptist churches, racism would show itself up. And so we had to do something different. We had to create things, we had to be missionary Baptists. We had to be all these different kinds of things, African Methodist, Episcopal Zion. We had to have, those things that are, Richard Allen and, my goodness, I can't remember the other guy's name for AME Zion. But we had to have all of those people. We had to have William Seymour. We had to have, all those people that would keep our spiritual center together. And that's important. And so we've done a whole lot of work with, on the daily, our personal theology. A lot of our community sayings, a lot of the sayings of our ancestors and our grandmothers, and even that we sometimes still use now. We've developed that out of a personal theology. He has been a bridge over troubled water. He has been a doctor and a lawyer. He has been, one that has never lost his case. He has been all of that to us. All of the attributes and all of the poetic alliterations that we give to God is born out of relationship, how I got over. We've come this far by faith. So that's been strong. But not only that, the thing that really moved us was not just our personal theology, it was also how our personal theology helped us view our public policy and to shape public policy, right? That a lot of the preachers of old were politicians as well. They did, right? But you know, that's very important. You know, that's very important that we understand that we've never really been disconnected as a total group of people. There are sects and sectors of us who don't deal with public policy. But you have Martin Luther King, you know, Medgar Evers, you have Ralph Abernathy, you have Jesse Jackson, you have, Bond, Julian Bond. You got all those people. You got so many folks that have been in the forefront. Today you got Freddie Haynes, and all these preachers, their names, Samuel DeWitt Proctor. You know, you got my dean, John Guns, at the School of Theology at Virginia Union. You've got Rudolph McKissick in Florida. Yeah, you got Reginald Sharp. Yeah, all of these people. Jesse Jackson, did I say his name? Yeah, you got him, right? All of these people, Al Sharpton, who grew up in the Church of God in Christ, right? And still in public policy. You got those people, Jamal Bryant. Yeah, you got all of these people in the forefront, creating, working, not compromising their religious understandings. Yeah. Although they don't have a church on Sunday morning, right? They don't have a church on Sunday morning, but a lot of them do. Most of them do. But most pastors, most black prominent pastors understand that your personal theology means nothing if we allow public policy to go waste and send us back to the Stone Ages. We cannot do that. But it can't just be in the pulpit. It has to be also in the pew. The common, everyday, mom, dad, family, the deacon on the sewing circle, you know, the red circle. You got to make sure that you know, the matrons. You got to be one, whether you are a trustee at the bank or a trustee on the board in your church. You and I have a responsibility. You and I have a responsibility to make certain, let me say it again, to make certain that our personal theology show up in the marketplace. And that is not this kind of Christian nationalism policy that's going on. You do as I say, because we taking the United States back for the kingdom of God. But listen. When did the psalmist lie? When was that reverted? The last time I read, the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the world and all that dwells therein. The last I read, the government, right, rests upon his shoulders, right? That God is not remiss. He's the one that's putting up kings and setting down another, right? In the poetic language, right? In a theocratic, but now men have a say. Men have a say in who they want to be president, who they want to be king. And that's not disparaging. That's not disparaging any theocratic individual, but neither is that disparaging the system of democracy or federal republic that we live in. That means simply that we can't just say Jesus gonna fix it, God gonna do all that. No. Because in this country, you and I have a voice. Huh? Yeah, you and I have a voice. And that's where it is important. I'm definitely not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm definitely not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to make that decision because that would be me doing exactly what they are doing. But I am going to present you with the facts. I am going to present you with the truth as they reveal themselves. Definitely. I will be derelict in my duty as a man of God on the radio that's been given the privilege of listening to thousands of people listening to me. I got to tell you the truth, whether you agree with it or not. But now how your personal theology begins to work out and how it engages public policy is on you. Every person, especially in church, did not like Martin Luther King. He only became popular in the black community to a great degree after his death. Yeah, that's it. See, and so, we champion for MLK Jr., but the truth of the matter is, his thoughts coming from Howard Thurman, who wasn't so much of a Christian as he was a mystic, right? Even though his grandmother, Nancy Ambrose, was a great deep woman of faith and crafted his mentality. And then he grew up and went to the Quaker church, and they began to deal with him. He began to create this whole ideology of religion or theology connected to creation, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. We still have a voice as Christian people, as people of faith, but not this political Christianity. We need to don't listen. Listen, we need to make sure that for all of the things that would affect our community, that yes, we get down on our knees and we pray. And whether you pray this evening, our Heavenly Father, right, or our God in years and ages past, our hope for years to come, right? However you open up your prayer, we need to get down, yes, on our knees and pray. Yeah. But we also need to prepare and plan and participate. That's what we need to do. We need to participate in really what is going on in this country. Or don't complain. Okay. Now, I know that was a challenge. That challenged your theology. We're either going to pray and participate and change the policy, or we're going to sit home and then have policy be created for us and we won't complain. I won't complain. Yeah, with all of the vibrato that African Americans provide. Yeah, we've got to participate, Culture Call. It's our call. It's our duty. It's our mandate in this coming season. Don't run away from it. They're expecting us not to participate. But guess what? We're going to show them that we are definitely not late, last, or lost. Listen, I see the runway. Got some more to come. I need y'all to stay right here. This is L. Spencer Smith right here on the Culture Call. WTSK 790. Praise 93.3. Praise. Guess what? We're almost landing this plane, but you got to stay with me. I'll be right back.
This is the world premiere.
Well, we are at the end of another show. My goodness, where did the time go? But I'm glad and grateful that you are on with me. I am glad and grateful for all of that. Listen, I want you to understand today that we have a responsibility. I said a big responsibility to make sure that we collectively come together and make a difference in our world, make a difference in our community. I think it's important, don't you? Absolutely. I want to meet you this weekend. I don't want anybody to go anywhere else but to Bowers Park. Meet me there with Councilman Lanier and the gentleman from Kappa Alpha Psi Epsilon on the campus of not the campus. Yeah, from the campus of Stillman College. I lost my point there. Yeah, on the campus of Stillman College. I want to see each and every one of you there as we collect school supplies. From 10 a.m. to 12, I need you to be there. It's going to be on the website for our website page on Culture Call Facebook. So make sure that you are there. Listen, as my grandmama and my mama would say, I love you a bushel and I love you a peck. I love you a hug around the neck. This has been yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call. Be nice, be sweet, be kind, love intentionally, do good to everybody. And we will catch you tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. You all have a blessed day.